it's all this weird childlike imagery that's coming for them. It's so disturbing.
Yeah, Bergman. A lot of fun at parties.
Oh, man, I have no idea what is going on.
And welcome back to Gateway Film Center for Fright Club Live in Columbus, Ohio. We should add a new rule to that. First rule of Fright Club now is that the PowerPoint works. Because if you've been here the last couple, we've had some technical difficulties, and we're glad to have that ironed out tonight. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. This is big because it's a big week of activities in Columbus, so thank you for choosing to spend your Friday night with us. We got a great movie. We've got a fun topic of Swedish horror, and we actually have a bonus tonight before the feature. We've got a great locally made short film coming up.
We're going to probably start doing that. We're going to show short films in advance of the feature film. And but really, and the movie, the one we're going to show tonight, and it's called Spencer plus Penny Forever. It's real short. But it's so delightful that the fact of this, it's not really horror, and I don't even care. I'm like, all people must see this.
Yeah.
So, and then we're hopeful that filmmaker Eric Basso is going to join us. He's a comedian, and he was performing tonight as well. So let's hope that traffic from across the street has died down, and he can probably get here.
And he's also a member of the cast in our film Obstacle Corps that is showing here all this week
at
Gateway Film Center. So we're
go to see it.
I know a few people have. Yes,
That's
a few people
right.
have tonight.
That's
so thank you so
right.
much. It's here all week. We appreciate that. But fun stuff. We do have to say, and I guess my T-shirt is kind of in line with this. In the last week, we lost a giant in filmmaking, not just horror, but with the passing of William Friedkin. And that got a lot of people, of course, this past week, not thinking of The Exorcist and all his films. But I was going to wear this anyway because I had mentioned in a couple of podcasts ago that I was my T-shirt, my horror T-shirt game was weak. And a lot of people here that come, it's strong. So I had to get better. So she got me a couple, and this was tonight. Yeah. And as it works out, this picture comes into play with one of the films that we're talking about tonight.
It does. It shows up in one of our movies
tonight. It's a beautiful circle that comes together. So,
and as sad as it is, and it is to have lost Friedkin, who was so great. I mean, and, like you said, not just The Exorcist, but I mean, even later career stuff. Killer Joe is just one of my all-time favorite movies.
Love
Bug
Killer Joe.
Is such a great movie. I mean, he made so many great movies. But my favorite thing has been people remembering what a just magnificent asshole he was in interviews.
I know.
That's been my favorite thing. It's just all these little clips of these interviews that Friedkin would give when he was just could not possibly have cared less what anybody thought of him. That's been the most fun.
And also, if you haven't seen it, came out, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, maybe more.
I think it's still on Shudder.
There's a documentary called Leap of Faith. It's all about just the making of The Exorcist. And it's a nice deep dive inside that film, but also it gives you a really nice peek inside his creative process in general. So if you haven't seen that, that's great that it's on Shudder. Hey, man, thanks for coming back. Leap of Faith, that's on Shudder now, so check that out.
So the last time, our last episode, our friend Dustin Meadows joined us, and he brought his friend, filmmaker Allison Locke. She was super cool to talk to. Dustin also, always super cool to talk to. Don't want to just glance over that. And they came with the topic of sieges in horror movies, and that was really fun. And it was really, really hard to pare down because it's a pretty ripe topic for horror.
It is, yeah.
So we all had to do some sort of gymnastics to like narrow down our focus. But that was a super fun podcast.
But also, Allison has a film streaming now.
It's streaming in a whole bunch of places. It's on Shudder. That's where we saw it, called The Apology. And it's not a siege movie. It's a little bit like a home invasion movie. A little bit. It's really tense. It's really well done. Janine Garofalo, who I love,
right?
She's in it. But the whole cast actually, it's a great movie that you guys should definitely check out. And Seth kept us honest as always. He would have liked to have seen. So first of all, Grabbers, which is a Fright Club film. We've shown that movie.
A favorite, yeah.
Yeah, it's a favorite. That shows up in a lot of our lists. So I'm surprised that I didn't even think about that one because that's a great option. Also, though, one that I've always toyed with putting on our actual screening list is Splinter.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. And
Thumbs
both
up?
of those, because The Mist was on the list, and both of those films have a very The Mist kind of a feel about them, where you just like glass around you and stuff. So anyway, those were good thoughts, Seth.
Good thoughts.
Thank you for sharing as
good
always.
Good thoughts. But tonight we're talking about Swedish, the Swedes, Swedish horror.
That's
and
right.
We've got 5 good ones and really a great one to show. Hi, welcome. Come on in. Tonight's our classic, by the way. At least once a year we do a classic film.
Yep.
So tonight will be that, and we'll get to that. But real quickly, before the 5 that we like the most, how about a few that we like a lot but didn't quite crack it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny idea. There is just an absolute shit ton of great Swedish horror films. Like, because first of all, they started making them in 1920, so it's a lot. It's a big catalog to choose from. And one of them that I want to just sort of single out is called Evil Ed, and I'm singling it out because it's a horror comedy, full-blown horror comedy. The Swedes, they're not funny. So this is a really strange film for them, but it almost has like a New Zealand quality about it. That's a really fun one. Also, The Circle and Elena, those are both relatively recent, and they're definitely worth watching. Wither and Frostbitten, of course, Insomnia, the original, with Skarsgård, the father. That's a really good one. And then there are 2 sort of classics. One is, I don't know, Seth, if you've seen this one, it's got you written all over it, called The Sensuous Sorceress from 1970.
Yes. Ooh, homework. Homework
that's
for
a recommendation. Seth. And then the one that was closest to making the list is from 1921 called The Phantom Carriage. But there was another 1920s Swedish movie that we went with, so I thought, well, we're not going to have 2. So that was my runners-up, all of them well worth watching.
Okay. And by the way, for the people that have just been coming in and didn't know, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're here from madwolf.com. And if you didn't know, we do this Fright Club podcast and movie screening once a month, second Friday of the month here at Gateway. We've been doing it for how many years now?
6?
6 years. And love to have you guys come back. Love to see new faces. Keep in mind, we also have a Fright Club podcast group on Facebook. We'd love to have you join if you haven't already. And we always have a great time. And, of course, we want to get you, after we show the film, come down and give us your thoughts. Because once we get to talking about that film on our list, we won't say much about it because we don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen it. But come on down after and we'll talk about it. So with that, you want to dive in?
Yes, I do.
Since the PowerPoint is working in all its glory, let's start with number 5 on our list. And this is another classic. This is from 1922. It's a fictionalized documentary showing the evolution of witchcraft from its pagan roots to its confusion with hysteria in Eastern Europe. It's Haxan. Okay, so that's the new video from Tool, and it's really rocking. And no, I love that movie. It's such a cool and interesting movie because the first, I don't know what, half hour, 45 minutes is almost like a lecture. And you think, what is this? And then it switches to all those fantastic images. And to remember that it's from 1922, it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's also, it's just gorgeous. Once they get past, I mean, the opening part is a lot of, they close in on art, actual art, and they talk about, like, they'll circle things and talk about, you know, what was representing in terms of sort of the medieval concept of Satan and Satan worship and all these things. And it's interesting, but it's a little bit of a yawn. But once they get into the reenactments, first of all, they're gorgeous. I mean, you can see clearly Bergman was influenced by this movie because the way that they use light and shadow in this is insane. But then they get into like the sort of satanic orgies, and their Satan is so great. He's always got his tongue out, and he's got this fucking butter churn. I don't know what's going on there, but it's very unnerving. So I wish that song was in it, and that would have kept my attention a little better. But still, it's just a fascinating movie.
At the time, this had an estimated budget of up to 2 million Swedish kronas. At the time, it was the most expensive film produced in any Scandinavian country. So they went all out. And also, if you remember, any fans of the Blair Witch Project, remember they're creators of that movie. In the movie, it was Haxan Films. Mm-hmm. So obviously, a tip of the hat to this movie. But it's just fascinating. And it's public domain, so it's free on YouTube. And
it is.
The one, I just rewatched it the other night, and the print is not bad, really, on YouTube. So that is number 5. That is Haxan from 1922. Let's get a lot more recent for number 4 on our list of Swedish horror. This is from 2019. As a couple goes on a trip to find their way back to each other, a sideshow artist and his shady entourage emerge from the woods, terrorizing them, luring them deeper into a maelstrom of psychological terror and humiliating slapstick. Coco D, Coco Da.
Rolig nu. Vi vil jo bare lege lidt.
This is a wild movie, and I remember so well when it came out a few years ago. It was must have been a busy week for our reviews, because sometimes when there's just too many movies in a week for us to review, we have a few other writers, and we had another one of our writers, and they came back and gave it 5 stars.
Yeah,
I think
so.
We're like, holy crap, we got to check this out.
Yeah.
And then we finally did, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's an incredibly disturbing. It's just an incredibly disturbing movie that just toys with you in the most sadistic way, and it's a time loop. So they just keep waking up again, and one of them almost kind of remembers what's about to happen, and just is on edge, like, wait a minute, what is? And it's really, it's a couple, and they're sort of dealing with grief, and they're dealing with the fact that they kind of hate each other, and they're not sure exactly what to do about any of this, and so this sort of nightmare reality just keeps invading their space in the most phenomenally brutal way. But because they're mourning the death of their daughter, it's all this weird like childlike imagery that's coming for them. It's so disturbing and fucked up, but really, really good.
And it's such a mix of different themes, because you've got the grief, and these people are really going through some serious personal shit. But then you've got the slapstick, and you saw like the silhouette puppets, and that guy who's like a sideshow barker is always just so happy. Yeah. There's so many of these contrasting elements, and somehow he's just like, where the hell am I? Is this hell?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny at times, but it's surreal and also very, very creepy. And definitely worth checking out. I guess it's Coco Day. That's what they were saying it. So Swedish horror, that's number 4 on our list from 2019. Very cool and very, very weird and fascinating. Number 3, this is another weird one. This is from 2018. A customs officer who can smell fear develops an unusual attraction to a strange traveler while aiding a police investigation, which will call into question her entire existence. It's Border.
Hela mitt liv så ingenting.
We're actually going to play this film later this season, so if you haven't watched it, don't yet. And it's a movie that also don't read up on it, because I read a number of reviews of it that just spoil something they really shouldn't spoil. So we're not going to spoil anything about it. But it's funny because actually, like, the main storyline isn't really typical horror. What's horror really about this movie is this B story that it runs through the whole movie, and they just never fully address. And it is the single most horrific thing that could possibly happen ever under any circumstances. And it's just like, like over there, like, that, I guess that happened then, right? And I found it so disturbing because, like, on top of it is this kind of a fractured fairy tale, lovely romance that's going on. And it's a gorgeous movie. And it's the guy who wrote Let the Right One In, which is an all-time favorite of ours. And it's incredibly well made. And it was nominated, this tiny Swedish movie that nobody saw was nominated for Best Makeup that year, Oscar.
And the one actress you saw in the trailer there, as you could tell, there were some heavy makeup effects going on. She not only gained weight, but she spent 4 hours in the makeup chair every day. And you're so right about that. It made both of us so mad when it came out, because one of the reviews that we looked at not only spoiled it, but spoiled it in like the headline.
Yeah, in like
so
the title of the
review. So even if you didn't want to read it, I'm like, how can you do that? Yeah. Because it's a major piece of discovery in the movie, and people were taking that away from audiences who hadn't seen it. So don't read up on it. Just come back and see it with us in a few months. And it's like you said, it's kind of steeped in a little bit of folklore, but at the same time, very, very now, and romantic and sad at the same time, but definitely worth seeing from 2018. Yeah, that's Border, our number 3. And speaking of, as we just were, up to number 2 on our list of Swedish horror. This is from 2008, Oscar. An overlooked and bullied boy finds love and revenge through Ellie, a beautiful but peculiar girl. Let the right one in.
Vill du bli ihop med mig?
This one comes up a lot. It is really just an incredibly wonderful piece of cinema. We talked about it not too long ago when we did one on bullies, because it's one of the greatest And of course, we'll do a swimming pools and horror at some point. And this will be the number one. Yeah. It's the best swimming pool scene ever in any movie. And it's just, and it's it's a really lovely story about like sort of outsider friendship and outsider love. And but also it's so cold. It's one of those movies that you watch it and just think, I'm freezing. Also, who cut that boy's hair? And should he be left with that person? I think there's another parent that maybe would look out better for Oscar.
Oh, wait, could that be a countdown? Bad haircuts? Bad haircuts in horror? That would be one. Yeah, I love this movie so much. And the film actually takes place in Blackberg, a suburb of Stockholm. But the principal photography, speaking of the weather, was shot in Luleå, the north of Sweden, to ensure there was enough snow and cold weather. And we talked a lot of horror movies that are set in the cold. To see blood, the red blood on the white snow is such a great look. And this one, it really pops. And just it aids the story, the isolation, everybody's just hunkered down and kind of uncomfortable all the time. And this kid is so lonely and bullied, and it's a perfect avenue for the young predator to come in and take him on as a friend and she's somebody that he needs, and he's somebody that she needs or is going to need in the near future.
Yeah, we've said before, the American remake was also quite good. It was very good. It was very, very well made. One of the things I like about the original, besides the cold, is there is a 1980s political sort of theme to it that's very specific to Europe at the time that I think is a fascinating thing. Also, there's more really angry cats in the original than there are in the remake.
Yeah, but the remake, Let Me In, was called, and yeah, I thought it was very worthy. And actually,
was good.
Bloody. I think it was more outright bloody,
we
more
always
carnage
argue about that. We always argue about
than the first one. But this one is superior, but it's really good and takes such good use of the surroundings as we talked about. For number 2, Let the Right One In from 2008. Yeah, we got a movie to show, so we got to get rolling. So let's go up to number 1, and obviously we haven't talked about it yet. So this is the one we're going to see tonight. So we're not going to talk about it much. This is a movie while vacationing on a remote German island with his younger pregnant wife. An artist has an emotional breakdown while confronting his repressed desires. From 1968, Hour of the Wolf.
Ingmar Bergman's Hour of the Wolf. The hour in which reality becomes a mockery of madness and masks hide behind faces. The hour of all final moments. Ingmar Bergman's Hour of the Wolf. A diary of truths and lies like truths.
So this is the one that we're going to watch tonight, and as usual, we're not going to say too much about it, but we always like to know how many of you have seen this one.
Okay, a few. Well, by all means,
many.
come on down afterwards and talk about it, because this one, Ingmar Bergman, always leaves you a lot to discuss with his underlying themes, and as you saw from a little bit of the trailer there, just gorgeous black and white.
So gorgeous. And of course, Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow and Liv Ullmann, favorites of Ingmar Bergman for many years. But it's a fascinating film, and it's another one I think. We talk about horror movies. Maybe some people may not be horrific enough for their liking, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think it's for sure supernatural.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And it's incredibly creepy. And obviously, it's just beautiful. It's just gorgeous. The performances are amazing. So I'm excited to see it with you, and we're excited to hear what you think of it afterwards.
1 hour and 30 minutes later. Yeah, Bergman. A lot of fun at parties. But it's always very psychological with him. Obviously, he was working out a lot of his own issues in his films, clearly.
That's right. I think that might be where it started, where Lynch got the idea. Hey, you know what Bergman did?
And watching it this time, what a lot of the like the hangers-on, the partiers crowd reminded me of the crowds in Rosemary's Baby.
Yes,
and the way it was always in their face and just always kind of in their space. Yeah, the way it was presented.
I think this is an incredibly sad movie, and that it's punctuated by Liv Ullmann's character Alma talking directly to the camera.
Yes.
You're not even sure who exactly she's talking to. Is it the baby? Is it like the police? Is it like you're never sure who exactly she's talking to? But I remember especially the first time I saw this movie, which was like 1,000 years ago, when she said to him as they were sort of taking in air at the party, and she said that she could count the number of times they had kissed.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, I thought that was the saddest thing I'd ever heard in a movie. Also, I hated him because he was going through all of this to have an affair when she was so nice to him all the time. And the thing I like more than anything, as George will tell you, is sleeping. And the fact that she would stay up all night because he had bad dreams, and then he was going to go bone this corpse at this party under this blanket with all these people watching. Yeah, I hated that guy.
And you know what it also reminded me of? Didn't Max von Sydow always seem old? I mean,
always.
Even in The Exorcist, and I know they made him up to be older, but in The Exorcist,
he was like 54.
I think he was like 44.
Oh my God!
So here he was like 39 years old.
Yeah.
He just always seemed like an old man.
He did always seem like an old
sorry,
man.
my mind was wandering. But no, you're really right. There was such a, she talked about it at the end there, how about when a woman loves a man becomes him. She was so devoted to him. And just early on when he, in the first few minutes when he came back from painting or whatever, and he just, all of a sudden he was so cold to her and she didn't understand. Yeah,
there's a tremendous melancholy, I think, in this movie. And then, it becomes so chattery as soon as they go to the party. It becomes just so very off-putting, and then they would pan this group of these horrible people and just pause on her for a second, and always these close-ups in her face. God, Liv Ullmann is just such an amazing actor, such an expressive face, and it was it's just the saddest film.
It did remind me a lot of that Mother ! Movie, and then also I'm thinking of ending things, the Charlie Kaufman thing. Obviously, the character dynamic ends up a little bit different from that, but I almost kind of, it's not until like she kind of absorbs his shame and guilt and whatever at the end, like up until that point, I kind of thought, I was like, oh, this is selfish guy pity party, but then the fact that like it moves on and even she's unclear whether it's like literal or not is very interesting to me.
I can definitely see that thing of ending things, that by the end of it you're like, what did I even just watch? Did I watch a straight narrative? No, I don't think I did. Yeah, for sure. But Mother, I love that analogy so much. Mother, I think, is a really underrated horror movie, and I think it was the movie that made me the most uncomfortable ever. And every time they were like sitting on that washing machine and she would come in, she's like, don't sit. I just was like, I'd be like, God, Jesus,
I
just
told
get off
you
the fucking washing
several
machine.
times. And what you said a little bit earlier about when she's talking, you didn't know who she was talking to. And almost any time a director does that, he's bringing you and looking right into the camera. Yeah. No matter who she's talking to, she's bringing you into this. But I think you bring up a good point about who in the course of the narrative is she talking to.
But I think that's effective because it's so easy to become, I think, separated from the narrative, that he just would bring you back into it periodically. Like, here's the one character you like. Here's the one that you can relate to. She's talking to you right now. Don't leave her. Don't abandon her.
Enough can't be said, obviously, for just how beautiful and encapsulating it is. He really knows what he's doing. Like, he, of course, experiments with his film work, but also they really know what they're doing with film. But I also wanted to say that a much more recent parallel, the way that they depict his anxiety as being the fear and the horror actually made me think of Beau is Afraid, just because same exact thing. His anxiety is fear and horror, except obviously that movie pushed it a lot farther. But I love that he can show you so much without really showing you anything. And
that's a good analogy, because a lot of people viewed Beau is Afraid as a horror film.
Yeah.
A lot more than I think I did, but I can see that. I can definitely see that. Good point.
Well, that part, I mean, to be honest, where he goes back to his apartment and that guy wants to kill him and he just wants to cross the street and get... There's a lot of it that was very horror film.
Yeah, but it's the whole
massively
anxiety trip.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man, I have no idea what is going on. The surreal experience aside, I thought the sound design was very very jarring in some places. It's really just like these huge, loud bangs just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you smash cut to another.
And the bird.
Crow,
the bird was very loud.
Pigeons, the freaking rats from wings. So, I thought like the sound design was very effective, along with all the surreal visuals, and it's just like I don't know what I just watched.
I agree with you. The sound design was glorious. I love too how often, just a couple of times where you ceased to hear what they were saying. They were still talking, but they stopped subtitling it, and all you heard was like this cacophony of stuff that you're not supposed to be hearing, but you had no idea what they were saying, which really, emphasized that what the fuck is happening. No one knows. You don't know.
And it was also the sound design, yes, and it was also just strikingly beautiful. Some of the shots, all of a sudden, it was some sort of mundane or generic shots, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, wow, look at that. I mean, it's black and white anyway, but look at the use of shadow, light and shadow. Beautiful.
And I love that just this one time, out of nowhere, a guy walks up a wall. You're completely not. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeously shot, and also it's absolutely the only time in the entire film anything like that happens. Just all of a sudden, okay, you're about to go have sex with a woman that I've been having sex with for a long time, and I'm gonna walk up this wall, and it's so
and I'm gonna hear all about it.
and then Max von Sydow, he looks around all smeared with makeup, like, what are these people doing in here? The guy just told you 1 minute ago. He just told you he was going to be there. Why are you surprised? Why are you cheating on Liv Ullmann? She's so nice to you.
She is so nice.
She's got soup.
She's got soup. And she's a good accountant. She keeps the books.
That's right. She's an excellent accountant.
Well, thanks, you guys. And looking ahead to a month from now, we're going to have another edition of Fright Club, our September edition. Again, it'll be the second Friday of the month. Off the top of my head, don't know what date that is, but...
Yep, the 8th.
September 8th. There you go.
We're going to show Prevenge, which is hilarious. And we're going to talk about jilted lovers in horror. And in the meantime, our film, Obstacle Corpse, is playing all this weekend and through the week at Gateway. So please come and see that. And again, before we show the film, we're going to start with an absolutely delightful short film that we were talking about earlier. A lovely movie called Spencer and Penny Forever. And Eric Basso, the filmmaker, is here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for letting us show the short.
Yes, thank you for sharing it. We did love it so much. As did everybody. It's won multiple awards, and we're very excited to get a chance to show it. So
that'll be first. That'll be first, and then Hour of the Wolf. And in the meantime, you can always find this podcast once it's edited, and all of our reviews and everything on our main website, which is madwolf.com. You can also find us on Twitter at Fright Club Pod. We've also got the Fright Club Podcast group on Facebook, and then the usual page on Facebook and Instagram is Mad Wolf Columbus. So lots of ways to get in touch. We hope you will. And until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
You guys are awesome. Short film first. Eric, thank you for the film. Thank you for coming. And then Hour of the Wolf, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Thank you.